You know, it's funny. Have you ever stopped to think about how the smallest parts of our clothes, the things we barely even notice, often tell the biggest stories? I'm talking about the buttons on your shirt, the zipper on your jeans. These details are so much more than just functional bits and pieces. They're kind of like the secret language of fashion, and today, we're going to learn how to speak it.
So, to get us started, here's a little riddle for you. Picture two things that could not be more different: a super rugged, heavy-duty firefighter's jacket and a really delicate, beautiful wedding dress. What on earth could those two possibly have in common?
The answer, it turns out, is simple but really powerful. It is all in the details. Both of these garments, and pretty much every single piece of clothing you own, rely on something called trims to work properly and to make a statement.
So, what exactly is a trim? Well, the official definition is right here. It's any detail, whether it's functional or decorative, that's added to a piece of clothing to make it look better, be worth more, and perform the way it's supposed to. Honestly, trims are both the unsung heroes and the flashy superstars of our wardrobes.
And this is where you can really see the two main jobs of any trim. On one side, you've got pure function, right? Things that close, fasten, secure, and reinforce our clothes. But on the other side, you've got decoration. All the little bits added just to beautify, add value, and express a certain style. So for the rest of this explainer, we're going to dive into both of these worlds.
All right, let's start with the trims that work. These are the super practical, totally essential details we rely on every single day to, literally hold our clothes together. They really are the unsung heroes in your closet.
Okay, so the most basic category of these functional trims has to be fastenings. We're talking about buttons, snaps, hooks and eyes, all those little things that let us get in and out of our clothes. And even though they're built for a job, they can also be incredibly decorative, coming in basically every shape, size, and material you can imagine.
A perfect example of that is the zipper. Just think about it. It can be a massive, heavy-duty workhorse on a pair of jeans or a winter coat, or it can be a tiny, delicate, completely hidden closure on a gorgeous evening gown. It's the exact same mechanism, but doing a totally different job.
Then we've got what the fashion industry just calls hardware. This is all that tough, industrial-strength metal stuff. Think buckles, chunky clips, sometimes even little locks. They actually started out on things like luggage and workwear, but now you see them all the time as these trendy, tough-looking details on jackets and pants.
And of course, we can't forget about lacings and ties. These are pretty simple, right? Just cords or straps that you thread through eyelets or little fabric loops. It's a really old way of fastening clothes, but man, does it have staying power as a style statement. You can get anything from a rustic peasant blouse to that classic cowboy chic look.
So we've seen how trims hold our clothes together. Now let's get into how they start to give our clothes their unique shape and silhouette. This is where function and art really start to blend together.
This brings us to linear trims. These are basically just decorative stitches that are used to trace and highlight the lines of a garment. The seams, the collars, the cuffs. They can be super simple, like a single line of top stitching, or way more complex, like faggoting, which is this cool open-work stitch that connects two pieces of fabric. It's a subtle but really effective way to add some structure.
Taking that one step further, we've got shaped edges. This is when the trim isn't just on the edge of the fabric, it actually creates the final edge. So you move beyond a simple straight line and get these amazing decorative contours. Just imagine the bottom of a sleeve or the edge of a collar having its own unique, beautiful shape.
And here are two fantastic examples. On the left, you've got the super ornate and delicate scalloped lace edge. It looks really complex and formal. And then on the right, you see a much simpler, handcrafted crochet edge that gives off a totally different, more casual vibe. They're both shaped edges, but they tell completely different style stories.
And that brings us to our last big category, trims that are purely for decoration. At this point, function totally takes a backseat. These are the artistic flourishes, the details added for aesthetic appeal, for texture, for flair. This is where designers really get to play.
A classic example here, frills and ruffles. They're just strips of fabric that are gathered up or pleated to add volume, movement, and a sense of drama, or maybe romance. And they can take so many different forms, from a basic straight ruffle that just adds a little texture, to more complex, circular, or pleated versions that create some real visual punch.
And come on, who doesn't recognize this? Rick-rack! It's that simple, woven, zigzag braid that's just a timeless, decorative trim. You see it a lot, especially in children's wear, where it adds this perfect touch of playful, graphic detail along a hem or a seam.
Another huge one is applique. This is basically the art of sewing a shaped piece of fabric onto a bigger piece of clothing. It can be something as simple as a flat patch, or you could even stuff it to create these cool three-dimensional designs. It's just an incredibly versatile way to add images and texture.
Now here's where things get really interesting, where you see the wild evolution of a trim. Take studs, for example. Today you probably think of punk rock jackets, right? Well, you're not going to believe this, but they were actually invented by Levi Strauss as a purely functional thing, to reinforce the seams on miners' work pants. That's a perfect journey from pure function to pure fashion. Of course, technology is always evolving, and trims are no exception. A great modern example is the heat transfer print. These are intricate designs that are basically ironed on or heat set right onto the fabric. For brands, it's a super fast and efficient way to apply really detailed graphics to their clothes.
So, we've looked at trims that work, trims that shape, and trims that decorate. Now, let's kind of bring it all home and look a little closer at the story that's being told in the stitches.
Look, if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's that trims are never an accident. Every single button, every piece of lace, every single zipper is a deliberate choice that a designer made. It's a choice that tells a story about what the garment is for, its style, and sometimes even its place in history.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you get dressed, just take a second to look closer at the details. Look at the buttons, the stitching, the zippers. Now that you know the secret language of trims, what story are those little details going to tell you?